Okay, so let's go ahead and implement the select box logic. So in our editor, let's go to the stock list. And what we need to do is we need to implement this onSelect handler. And what we want to do inside here is we want to read the current value, and then we want to update the stocks, and then we want to update the state, because now our stocks come from the app state. So first of all, let's go to app.js, and we'll take the set stocks function from our useState function call, and we'll pass that into dashboard as set stocks. And inside of dashboard, we now have access to this function from our props. So we need to get this function down to our stock list. So we need to pass it another level deep. So we need to say stock list and then say set stocks, and we'll pass in the function. Now this is basically my pain point for passing functions through, or properties in general, through multiple layers of components. Usually when I have to go deeper than 3 layers, I start to look for some kind of state management library or context that can help me provide the functionality and properties to the components that need them without having to drop them down multiple components that have no use for that property. But in this case, 3 is workable, so we'll keep it like that. But in the future, we might have to refactor a little bit. So let's go to our stock list. Now, let's take a look in our console what happens when we log out the target value of our event. So these are our options, and my guess is we'll see these values when we log it out. So let's check. Let's change, and you can see in the console that we have dividend yield overall down here, and then if we change back, we have dividend yield current year. All right, so now we want to say if, let's say, const descriptor equals target value, and then if the descriptor equals dividend yield overall, we're going to say set dividend yield overall, set stocks by dividend yield overall. All right, and then else if descriptor equals dividend yield current year, we'll create a function that says set stocks by dividend yield current year. All right, and now we'll create those 2 functions. So we'll pop those in here. And inside of here, we want to sort and then update the states. And inside of the stock list, we now have the set stocks property. So that's going to update the app state for us. So inside of here, we need to sort the elements and then update the state. So let's have a look at how we'll do that. So if we go to our helpers file in the dashboard, we already have a couple of sorting functions here. Now, I've just noticed, and I did this on purpose so that we could see this error, that we have a array that we are sorting on, but sort is a function that manipulates the array in place. So every time we call the sort function, we're operating on the same array. And that's troublesome because we are now using this array in multiple places in our application. And when we operate on the array and change it, we can get unexpected side effects. So we're also going to have to change our current approach to get rid of some of these side effects. So I'm going to take the sort stocks by dividend yield and move it out of the helpers.js file in the dashboard, because it's now going to be used in multiple places. So let's go and create a helpers.js file in source, and we will copy this over, and we'll copy over the get current year. Actually, we'll cut it out, and then we'll remove this, and now we'll import the functions from the folder that we, or the file that we just created. Import sort stocks by dividend yield and get current year. All right, and add a from there. Let's go back to the helpers file we just created. And now I'm going to do this. I'm going to create a copy, and I'm going to spread out the stocks, and I'm going to use the stocks copy to sort on. So I'm creating a new array, and I'm using that to sort the elements, and then I'm returning the new array out. So let's go and clean up our code, because we just changed a few locations for our functions, and our components are having trouble finding them. So get current year in stock list, it needs to be updated, and that's going to be in the root folder of source, so helpers. And all right, so we got that working again. And let's go back to our stock list, and what do we want to do inside set stocks by dividend yield current year is we want to say const sorted equals, and then we want to grab the sort stocks by dividend yield, and we'll import that. Stocks, and then we want to set stocks with the sorted elements, and we want to import this function from our helpers file. So let's go ahead and say import sort stocks by dividend yield from helpers, like this. And what we want to do is we want to also set this when the application boots up. So that'll be our default. And to do that, we'll grab the use effect hook. And in stock list, we'll say use effect. And we'll do set stocks by dividend yield current year when the application boots up. Now we're going to have a problem because when the application boots up, the stocks array is going to be empty. So we also need to make sure that we are only loading this component once we have the stocks. So if we log out the stocks here, then in our, let's see what's going on. So set stocks is not a function. All right, so let's fix that first. So stock list, set stocks, and inside of our dashboard, we are passing the set stocks down, and let's save here. All right, so as we can see, the what we logged out now is empty, so we don't have the stocks available. They become available after the use effect function has already run, but that's too late. So we need to make sure that we have these stocks when we render the stock list. So to do that, we could do this stocks and it's a pretty common thing to do in React. But in my opinion, it can make the code seem a bit messy if you have a lot of them. So I usually add a library with components that I frequently use, and inside of this library I have a component called conditionally render, and then it has a if true prop, and here we're going to put in stocks.length, and then it has a show prop, and then we're going to put in the component that we want to show if this is true. So I just put that in, and I added the package, which is React Util Kit, and that's still downloading, so we'll just have to wait for that to finish, and then we'll import it at the top here, and we should be good to go. Because what this will do is we'll have the stocks when we render this stock list. So that means that inside of the stock list, our use effect will have the stocks available. So our function will be able to operate on those stocks and correctly set them into state. So if we go back and we import conditionally render from React Util Kit, and we start our dev server again and hit save, then we should be able to see that now when we log out the stocks in our development environment, we have the array of stocks available. So let's just give that a second, and we'll take a look in our console. So here we're refreshing the page, and in our console we now have our stocks. and you can see that they are ranked by dividend yield, and the highest one is at the top. Okay, so perfect. Let's go back to our editor. With that done, we now need to handle the set stocks by dividend yield overall. And we need to make a few changes here, because what we have here is we have in our helpers file, in the dashboard helpers file, we have a function that calculates or sorts by dividend yield. So this function here, calculate dividend stock compounded. This part will sort the elements. But you also notice that we're actually manipulating the element here. And that's not what we want, because that's an unfortunate side effect when we're using the elements in other parts of our application. So we need to think a little bit about how we are going to structure this component. But first, I'll take that out and copy it and go over to helpers.js, and inside here we'll say export const sort stocks by compounded yield, and we'll give it stocks, and then we are going to paste that in, and we'll say return sorted by compounded yield. Alright, and we'll move the calculate total dividends over as well. So that will live in this file now. And inside of here we can remove this here, and we'll call on this function that we just created. So sort stocks by compounded yield, and pass in the stocks, and then we need to make sure that we import that from our main helpers file. So sort stocks by yield. Alright, so as I said, we now have a problem, because we, in the calculate total dividends here, we are manipulating the items of the array, and then we are returning that, and that's not what we want. We want to have a function that's free of side effects. So we need to change how this sort function works. So what we're going to do is we're going to change the calculate total dividends, and then we're going to use that inside of the sort function in order to make the calculations. And we are also going to create a stocks copy. So we're operating on a new copy of the array. And we'll remove the map here, and we'll just say stocks.sort, and make sure to swap out stocks here with stocks copy. And now we'll still calculate the total here, but we'll remove the part where we're assigning it to stock, and then we'll just return the total out. And now that we've changed this, inside of the sorting function we can say const stock a compounded dividends equals calculate total, and then we'll pass in the stock A, and then we say stock B compounded dividends, and we call the same function with stock B. So now that we have those numbers, we can't just do stock B total minus stock A total anymore. So let's take a look at the documentation for sort. And I want to go straight to the sorting function. So mdn sort array. And let's take a look. So basically, in the compare function, we have to return either 1 if we want A to be in front of B, or -1 if A is less than B, or 0 if it's equal. So we have those 3 values to work with. So inside of our sort function, we now need to make a few checks. So we'll say if stock B compounded dividends is, and we'll remove this. So if that's greater or less than stock A compounded dividends, then we'll return 1. Otherwise, if stock B compounded dividends is greater than stock A, then we want to return -1, and otherwise we'll return 0. Okay, so I think that'll fix our sorting function, but it'll also probably break something else. Yeah, we'll take care of that in a second, but for now let's go to our stock list and we'll say const sorted equals sort stocks by compounded yield, and we'll pass in the stocks, and we call set stocks with the sorted elements. And let's see if that works. Okay, so we start off with the highest dividend yield, and now we want to change to highest dividend yield overall. And you can see it changes to this one. So now this stock is on top, and that's correct. So if we swap back and forth now, we'll have the ability to kind of sort the list according to the different options here. So we can add more as we go along, but for now I think that's pretty good. And we also got rid of some side effects in our application, which is always a good thing. You should always aim to have as little side effects as possible, because it can make for some pretty hard to find bugs. Now you'll notice that we lost the amount here, and that's because we changed the way that our sorting function works. So the function that calculates the highest dividend yield of all time, it doesn't have the total anymore to put into here. So we need to go to our editor and find the place where we're calculating the amount here, and we'll have to call the calculate function with this item. So let's say in our main helpers file, we'll export this calculate total dividends, and then we'll import it into here, and we'll give it the sorted element, and that'll calculate the value. So we need to import that. And the reason that works is because we've already sorted the elements. We know that the first element in the array is the element that has the highest compounded yield. So when we use this function, we're just calculating it and retrieving the value. So let's go back to our application, and here we have the amount back. All right, so perfect. I think that's a mouthful for now, so we'll leave it there, and then we'll do some cleanup in the next video. So thanks so much for tuning in, and I'll see you there.